Hello and good evening. I'm Kathryn Frady, Executive Artistic Director for Marble City Opera, and I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight for the sneak preview of Winterreise. Winterreise is a song cycle by Schubert, and we are actually presenting it as a semi-staged opera with video projections. This evening, you are going to be hearing a few selections from one of the tenors in Knoxville, Joshua Allen, who has so graciously agreed to be our cover tenor for this performance and agreed to perform for you tonight. I'm going to be talking a little bit about each of the pieces that he's performing for you, giving you the text and the translation of the poems that he is singing. And we'll talk a little bit about Winterreise and just have a casual evening with Kathryn Frady, Winterreise by Schubert, and songs being sung by Joshua Allen. So one of the great resources for Schubert's Winterreise is a book by a very famous singer who has performed Winterreise all over the world many, many times. And his name is Ian Bostridge. And he has written this very lovely book. It's very long. And this has been a huge help for me to study the piece so that I know exactly what everything is about and to know all of the storyline. And it's just been a really insightful piece of literature about the piece. If you're interested in purchasing this book and doing some research of your own before our performances in November, it's called Schubert's Winter Journey, Anatomy of an Obsession by Ian Bostridge. So tonight I'm going to be sharing a little bit of his words about the pieces that Josh is singing for us tonight. The first song that you will hear Josh sing for you this evening is the fourth song in the song cycle of 24 songs. It is, in German, pronounced Erstarrung. And I'm going to read you the translation. Erstarrung is translated here as frozen stiff. In vain I search for traces of her footprints in the snow, where she walked through the green fields on my arm. I will kiss the ground piercing through the ice and snow with my hot tears until I see earth. Where can I find one flower? Where can I find green grass? The flowers are dead. The grass looks so washed out. Shall I then take no keepsake from this place? When my griefs are silent, who else will say anything about her to me? My heart is as if frozen. The picture of her is frozen stiff inside me. If my heart ever melts again, her image will flow away as well. Erstarrung is a tricky word to translate. It's also a tricky word to say. I'd try to say it 3 times fast. Erstarrung, Erstarrung, Erstarrung. You try it, it'll be fun. The standard translation, numbness, doesn't seem altogether adequate, summoning up notions of anesthesia and insensibility, which have very little to do with this song, as listening to the first few bars will confirm for you this evening. There's an urgency and obsessiveness and intensity to the work, even before we are given the poet's words to tell us more. There's a despairing sense of loss. He goes on to talk about how the girl in this piece, who is the lost love that this wanderer, our hero, is talking about throughout the piece, that she is assimilated to prey. And he's reminded of the pieces that come before this, when the wanderer is talking about the footprints and the animals that were in the snow while he's walking on his path. This is one of the craziest moments in the cycle, the most hysterical. It moves from a quiet scurrying to those piercing cries, and it seems above all to have a sexual quality, repressed urgency and desire for release, which sets it apart from the rest of the Winterreise songs. It is also surely, of all of those songs, the most psychoanalytical in flavor. This is because figuratively about feelings which are buried, repressed, and seek to escape, to vent themselves. We feel that very strongly in this song, as great waves of emotion stemming from the piano, the unconscious, are ridden and struggled with by the voice, the conscious mind, the ego. This is a theme we shall return to. Now please enjoy Joshua Allen singing Frozen Stiff. Enjoyed that selection. The next number that Josh is going to sing for you this evening is number 7 in the song cycle. In German, it is Auf dem Fluss, on the river. You who rushed along so heartily, you gleaming wild river, how still you've become. You don't say goodbye. With a hard, stiff crust, you have covered yourself. You lie cold and unmoving, stretched out in the sand. On your surface I engrave with a sharp stone the name of my beloved, the hour and the day of our first greeting, the day I left. Around name and numbers winds a broken ring. My heart in this river, do you now recognize your image? Under its crust, does it swell to bursting in the same way? An interesting perspective from Ian on the piece that we're about to hear from Josh, number 7. Winterreise was written and composed in a Europe in which winter had a greater imaginative impact than in our own time. At the same time, it was the product of a culture fascinated by the uncanny power and symbolism of ice. Auf dem Fluss, or on the river, starts off with icy nonchalance in the piano, a dissociated thread, an emotionless plodding which conjures up at one and the same time a frozen river and a frozen state of mind. There's something amused about the wanderer's calm consideration of the frozen river, an almost cabaret-like quality to the modern ear. The absurd, the comical should never be resisted in Winterreise. He goes on to talk about, in great detail, the musical implications of the piece. But one other part that I find really fascinating and that is going to be helping me as I create the video projections and the staging for this piece is this talking about the ice and the writing on the ice. He says, to write on ice is an image of ambivalence, like writing on water but not quite letting go, wanting to delay the oblivion of forgetting, the inevitable bereavement by freezing it. Freezing feeling. Freezing feeling is, though, at the same time, both to preserve and to anesthese it. The Wanderer doesn't scratch songs or love poems in the ice, but a laconic record of his affair, the name of his love, which we never find out, the day of the first greeting, the day he left, and winding around the name and the numbers, a broken ring. Again, the music pulls against the words as the sinuous, unbroken vocal line tells us about the broken ring. So I find this fascinating, this idea that he's writing on the ice and portraying his feelings. What does a broken ring symbolize? The ring itself is continuous, and now this broken ring, perhaps they were engaged and no longer are engaged. So this is about this poem, Frozen on the River, Frozen Ice, and I hope that you will enjoy Joshua Allen's rendition of number 7, On the River, from Winterreise.
Street.
I hope you enjoyed Joshua's rendition of number 7. Now we're going to actually number 13 in the song cycle. It is called Die Post, or The Post. A post horn sounds from the road. What makes you leap up so high, my heart? The post doesn't bring any letter for you. Why do you throb so strangely, my heart? Now, yes, the post comes from the town where I had a beloved love, my heart. Do you really want just once to have a look and ask how things are going there, my heart? This piece is all about longing and hoping to hear from his loved one. How often have we waited for a text message from someone we're hoping to hear from, or a phone call? How often have we waited for a letter? Well, I don't think many of us have often waited for a letter, but have you ever received a letter in the mail? You remember how fun it is to actually hear from somebody that way? Now we most often wait for our text messages to ring, but this is what the wanderer is experiencing. He is longing again for his lost love and wishing that he was going to have mail. Ian describes this piece as a love affair conducted by letter, had its own very special rhythmic of expectation. When will it arrive? Disappointment, not today. And fulfillment of joy. The fulfillment then had its own emotional layers. The physical letter itself, folded paper thick with anticipation, the handwriting, well known, but also with the character of the moment it was undertaken, be it agitated, dreamlike, or firm of purpose. And then the content, again uncertain, and to be read and read over and over. This is the emotion which is synthesized in the first verse of Die Post. Disappointment will ensue. There can be no letter for him. But the post horn is an involuntary reminder of all those obsessive emotions. His heart leaps up because the mail comes from town where she lives. But it also palpitates because the post horn is a sign for the mail coach, and the mail coach means letters, and all the emotions of receipt are sent in train. We hear all of this in the vocal line. I hope you'll enjoy Joshua Allen's rendition of The Post.
Die Post bringt keiner Brief für dich, mein Herz.
Schubert's Winterreise is a song cycle. Well, what does that mean, and why is Marble City Opera performing a song cycle? A song cycle typically is a group of songs that a composer composed that go together on a similar theme and are often performed in concert together with piano. Well, Winterreise is made up of 24 songs and is about 70 minutes in length. So this is a very long program actually for a concert recital, because many recitals are made up of multiple composers, and song cycles are around 15 minutes perhaps, or 20 minutes, and obviously there are some that are longer and shorter. But this one is very long and would be the only thing to be programmed on an evening. And for a recital, an audience who might normally go to a recital might be used to having more of an intermission. And so these pieces sometimes can be split up from 12 and 12 and 13. The post is sort of the new transition into what was going to happen next. But one of the things I really like about Ian's book here is he talks about the types of performances that this piece has seen, and how in Schubert's day, how he would have composed, what he would have composed it for. He says he did perform the songs to his friends, Schubert, privately performed them, and was as much a poetic work of the imagination to be read, played, and half sung along to at home. It was not until much later in the century that it began to be performed complete in concert halls. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the selections that we chose for you, and I'm sure you enjoyed Joshua's performances, as he has a beautiful voice. And Brandon Coffer was on the piano accompanying him, and I hope that you so enjoyed their performance this evening. And just hearing a little bit about the pieces themselves and about Winterreise, and for joining me here this evening to talk about Schubert's Winterreise. We hope that you will join us on November 6th and 7th via your own living room, or come to see us in the performance venue. So we will be performing November 6th and 7th at Trenton Hall in the downtown First Baptist Knoxville Church. And the performances are at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can also view the performance online. So great option is, if you are hoping that you will feel comfortable to come in person, you can purchase an in-person ticket and you will still receive a link to the performance. Or you can purchase an online virtual performance and you will be streaming the performance as it's happening. So we hope that you'll join us. Those tickets can be found on our website at marblecitybopera.com under tickets. You can also find out more information about our production on our Facebook page and Instagram, facebook.com/MarbleCityOpera or instagram.com/MarbleCityOpera. Again, I am Kathryn Frady, Executive Artistic Director for Marble City Opera. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great night.